for organizing this, for inviting me and for giving me an opportunity to talk about something that I'm very passionate about, the MCM 70 machine. And part of the excitement, at least my part, is that this is a very extraordinary box from both hardware and software point of view. I will try to argue that what you see here, or better, what you see here, thanks to Lee who brought MCM 70. But this is the first personal microcomputer manufactured with an intention to solve for personal use. And since it was the first, whatever you have inside, and these are the industry first, since it overloaded with it on software and hardware part. Now, there are many ways you can tell the MCM story, the MCM the company and MCM 70 story. I decided actually to tell the story by telling you how I learned about the MCM 70, the company itself. And the story starts almost 2 years ago in Paris, and I was doing what a typical tourist does in Paris, namely studying the history of French microcomputing industry in the National Library there, waiting for manuals of microcomputer. And I was flipping some old electronics magazines from '73 when I came across a rather strange-looking short article announcing a unique portable Canadian computer, MCM 70. There was a name mentioned of the president of the company, Merce Cat. So I'm waiting for these manuals. I'm reading through the article, and I was really surprised because, to the best of my knowledge, there was no fully built microcomputer around '73, and this was probably August '73, the publication of the article. The word microprocessor wasn't mentioned in the article, so I really didn't know whether I'm talking about mini computer or microcomputer. And then another intriguing thing was that the article mentioned APL interpreter built in. And I remembered reading something that around that time the only machines running APL interpreter were mainframes. APL interpreter was not even available on mini computers. Anyways, I made the note of MCM 70, and I made the note of Merce Cat and decided to do a research being back in Canada. But I did. I went on the internet, and I think I got something like 2 hits. The first one was with someone by the name of Merce Cat was selling a horse. That web page, unfortunately, was dead. I couldn't really follow it. And the second was about Merce Cat, a tennis player. Some international competitions mentioned that Merce Cat occasionally was winning and occasionally was losing. So not having any better idea, I decided to call the Canadian Tennis Association asking for some help to locate Merce Cat. They gave me an email. I sent an email saying, okay, are you or are you not the Merce Cat who was the president of Microcomputer Machines? And within a few hours, I got a response, yes, I'm the Merce Cat, who do you want? And from that moment, I learned quite a lot about the machine from Merce Cat. First of all, that this was indeed a microprocessor-based machine that indeed was manufactured. And from that time, I managed to actually get in touch with most of the core members of MCM. Did many hours of interviews, took many pictures, did tons of photocopying. And the result of all of that is, among other things, this talk, this presentation. So now what I should do really is to start or go back to the story of Merce Cat, the founder. This picture was taken at my university, my school, when Scott was talking about the business side of his venture. And, so Merskat was, in the late 60s and early 70s, was a very well-known person in high-tech industry in Canada. Now, he graduated in '56 from the University of Toronto, getting a degree in mathematics and physics. Then worked for a number of companies, including Philips, IBM, and Honeywell, as a salesman. And actually, he was a brilliant salesman. He could sell actually everything Honeywell had for sale, and was really a top man in that company in Canada. But what he wanted to do really was research and development. And at that time, these are late early '60s. There was no research development in computer industry in Canada. So it's not a surprise that in '65 he decided to do something totally new, and his career took rather unexpected U-turn, and he was back at school, but not to work on his PhD thesis, but he ended up in the Department of Mathematics at Queen's University. Queen's hired him not to teach mathematics, they were not that desperate, but to do something else, to start a computing center. Queen's is one among the oldest degree-granting universities in Canada, but around that time they were far behind other universities in terms of academic computing, and Kat was hired to change all of that. So he was in math department, but really he was hired to start and to run a computing center. Now, it was also agreed that Kat could start his computer business, and indeed in '67 he incorporated the Consolidated Computer. That company was set up to design and to manufacture and sell key edit systems. And almost overnight, it became one of the top high-tech Canadian companies, operating with multi-million budgets. So it was a very, very successful venture. Then an important event happened in 1970, important to the story of the MCM and the computer itself. Merskat meets Bob Noyce during the Fall Joint Computer Conference in Houston. They have a lunch and they talk about, well, Kat is telling Noyce about his key edit systems and how desperate he was to improve key edit stations by adding extra computing power. And he mentioned that he would like to have something like 4004 processor, if that processor were a little bit more powerful and had better instruction set and so on. And Noyce mentioned that indeed Intel was developing such a processor, 8008 actually, and however Intel was experiencing some financial problems. The company which asked Intel to design the 8008 data point was losing interest in the processor, and so was the board of directors of Intel. And Kat offered co-financing actually of that venture into 8008. And however, by the time his company, Consolidated Computer, voted actually to go with Intel and conclude the work on 8008, Intel's board of directors decided to finish the project internally because of the interest expressed by other companies, such as Seiko, for instance. However, from that moment, Kat and Noyce were quite close, and Kat had a pretty good idea of what was going on in terms of 8008 project development. He knew all the specs, instruction setting, and so on and so on. And in fact, the MCM 70 project started even before 8008 was released, due to that sort of knowledge. Now, then, but this is the end of 1970. The end of 71 is a totally different story. Kat is forced out of his own company in rather working circumstances. I should probably mention things like politics, money, and he can conclude the rest. I don't want to speculate really reasons, I think I have all the time, but still I can't really build a clear story, so I don't really want to produce something that may not be fair to many parties involved. Anyway, he was out of consolidated computer, but hungry for another project of that caliber. And that project was the design and development of a portable desktop computer running in PL. Now, that idea goes back to his work as the director of computing center. He was very disappointed with seeing how ineffective the partial utilization of computers was at that time. And he was, as almost everybody in Ontario and Canada, in love with APL. So for him, it was obvious that what he wanted really to do was to do a small desktop box that would be running APL for personal purposes, either in research and education or in business. Now, but as Scott frequently says, you don't develop an idea because it's neat, but you have to wait for technological trigger point. But by the end of '71, he knew very well that 8008 is about to be introduced to the market. So he said, well, the time is right. I want to have a box that is powered by 8008, and I want that box to understand APL. Now, but he is a mathematician. He has a degree in math and physics, not in hardware, not in computer hardware. So certainly he needs a bunch of people to work on the project. And he gets lucky, or some people say that this is one of his great abilities, that he has, he can easily attract top people, and even in spite of the fact that the idea may be totally strange. And the first person who he attracted to the project, let's see, his second slide, was Lord Raymer. Lord Raymer, perhaps some of you know his name because of his work on York APL interpreter. At that time, Lord Raymer was at York University, at my school. Wrote that nice interpreter, and what was interesting about York APL is that it required, that it was very memory efficient, the variant of APL. Now, Kat knew that and basically traced Raymer and said, look, my box will not be very powerful in terms of memory, and if there is any person who can write APL for that box, it's you, because you know almost everything about squeezing APL into almost no memory. Now, the first reaction of Raymer was that there's no way that he could do it, that the microprocessor is too slow, and 16K of memory that the processor could address is absolutely not enough. So the first answer was definitely no. However, probably what Kat did as an excellent salesman performed this famous Jedi mind trick, and the result of that was, okay, I will do it. So by the end of '71, both men decided to go with the project, and Raymer decided to take the software part of it. He would be designing what would be called MCM APL interpreter. So this is the software side. The hardware side, Jose Uraya, very interesting and brilliant hardware engineer, and Kat found him in his computing center at Queens. I will tell you more about him when I will be talking about the hardware configuration of MCM 70. And again, he was very enthusiastic from the very beginning. He liked the idea of microprocessors very much, and he would be among the first engineers to build a real computer around it. So he was very enthusiastic about the project. Then other people joined, Don Ganner, another guy from York University, who was working for Computing Center there, working on implementation of APL. Then another global guy from Kingston, Andre Arvin. He did an excellent job of writing floating point arithmetic. This was 64-bit floating point arithmetic to support APL, and he implemented virtual memory, one of the features of this machine. Then this guy, VP of Engineering, later on was taking care of manufacturing. Morgan Smythe, another APL enthusiast who wrote your APL book, basically working with documentation. Okay, so now the next step. So these people arrived more or less at the beginning of '72, and here you have the design stage. Let me jump over. Oh, okay, this is a nice picture. These are, so this is Gord Raymer, York APL and MCM APL designer. This is Andre Martin, who did the floating point arithmetic and virtual memory. Don Genner, the software engineer, and Morgan Smythe, the guy who wrote all the most of the manuals. Okay, so this is something that I recently got from Kat. This is probably the first sketch of MCM 70. It wasn't even called that way at that time. So it's not clear to me yet. So I still have to discuss whether this was the display or the first cassette drive. Certainly didn't work here. You have a modem or a place for the second cassette. And we have lots of switches. So this is the first drawing. I find it interesting. On another page, you have the design of the keyboard, a rather strange looking thing. Now, so this is very early in '72. In November, on November 11, '72, there is a shareholder meeting, and during that meeting, the MCM 72 prototype was demonstrated. So this is exceptionally early. If you remember, the 8008 processor was just a few months on the market. Now, the prototype could run a subset of APL, or subset of MCM APL. Then, in early '73, Kant brings the prototype, this time portable version of the prototype, to Intel, demonstrates it to Noyce and Moore. And Kant told me about great enthusiasm, and this is my report that I took from the tape from the interview. But these were the local presentations, and the first public publication presentation of MCM Machine is in May of '73, where MCM team demonstrated the MCM 70 prototype to the APL user group conference. Now, I was told that the conference was very well attended. However, the response to the presentation varied. So there was a group of people who were very enthusiastic. They haven't seen anything like that, and they really liked very much the idea of having an APL machine on the box, on the table. Some of these people decided to switch to join MCM, actually, through the people who later on were working on, for instance, on power supply. The reason why they came was the presentation. Now, there's another group of APLers who were less enthusiastic. What happened is during that conference, IBM demonstrated long-awaited improvements to their APL 360. I think it was called APL SV. And lots of people for many people, this was the event of the conference. And now here you have MCM team bringing a very small box with a limited APL capabilities. I will show you how the prototype looks like. Here it is. It looks differently, quite differently from what you see here. The first difference is that there are no cassette drives. And these cassette drives were very crucial because, as I said, 8008 could address only 16K of memory. Most of that memory was taken by the APL interpreter itself. There's almost no space left for workspace. Now, these cassette drives provided really the visual memory and workspace capabilities. So this guy could run really a very limited subset of APL APL, and this is what it was demonstrated to the APL community. I think this is how I can explain that some of the people that I contacted, they said, oh yeah, this was nice, but again, we like our big, fast machines, and this was a small thing, yes, that's fine, but what can you do? This is the reason for lack of enthusiasm at the beginning. Now, there was another presentation made pretty soon. APL, MCM 70 was taken to Copenhagen to another APL conference in August of '73. And this time, well, this didn't come up. Well, this is the best picture I could actually find. Presented a portable version and a suitcase. This is a suitcase version of the MCM 70. Now this time it has a cassette drive because you see the guy is called Ted Edwards. Ted Edwards was the person who was working in power supply, the first switching power supply. Now, this time it was a big hit, and right away there was actually Politiken that published the article, and the number of pictures was, and I think still is, one of the main dailies in Denmark. And so there was quite a lot of publicity, and Counting, a good salesman, used that very skillfully and actually arranged a huge European tour to demonstrate the machine. And so this takes place in August and September. So he visited Holland, Germany, Switzerland, France, Italy, UK, keep giving even an interview. Yeah, he was even on French TV giving an interview. So some of the newspapers here. So basically, yeah, there were the prototype and the suitcase, but basically they were showing around the old prototype to the countries, which was without any rights. Now, so this is in Europe, and but if you look at the American continent, and this was totally unaware of what was going on, although, as I said, the Maersk was a big name in Canada, so occasionally there were articles published what Katz was doing, what was he planning to do. So I typed one of the small articles here about Katz project. So again, not really much. This is August. So again, in August, MCM 70 was introduced to Europe, but occasionally you have some computers, some chips, some general ideas. So there's not really much information about what's going on in that company. It was not until September 25th where MCM Center was officially announced in Toronto. So this is the official announcement. So Maersk is on the left-hand side. This is Gord Raymer. This Ted Edwards, the power supply guy, and Rodrigo. Now, 2 days later, the announcement was made in New York, and on 28th of September in Boston. And what followed was extensive press coverage. Almost every major newspaper in North America was publishing information about MCM 70. Now what I will show you is a few quotes from either press conferences during the announcement of MCM 70 or from promotion, some of the information from promotional brochures, that will explain what the company was really after. So certainly what Kat wanted to do is, he said, well, people are so enthusiastic about handheld calculators because they are easy to use and they are useful. So this is one feature that I want to have. Then the second feature is that I want that machine to be useful, so let's look at big mainframe computers or mini computers. So I want functionality and ease of use. So I want to locate my computer between handheld calculators and mainframes, and this means something on the desk. Okay, well, they published quite a few of these brochures addressing scientific community, addressing educational community, And of course, business. Business was a huge clientele for MCM. So what they would be typically doing, so this is the application of MCM 70 in science, there would be a little bit of propaganda, and followed right away with a few APL programs to show how easy it is to write a simple statistics program. So there will be sets of that type of information for educational applications and business. Now, I made a claim that it was MCM 70 is the first personal microcomputer, and it was explicitly stated in 73 by CAD. The MCM was to offer a microcomputer of size, price, and these are used to be personal computer, ownership, and business education and safety. So they were quite set in they wanted to really have personal computing. A few more quotes. Personal Lease in Boston. Yeah, what you see in all sorts of historical presentations about computing with hand quotes, visionary quotes, and some prophecies. So I said, why not bring this here as well? So what was God saying is that indeed what will happen is that we'll see less and less of these big things, but more and more of these small things. And he hoped that actually that will change. MCM 70, it did not really happen that way. So I like the choice of the word food. Okay, so now a little bit about the specs. So what was that? What's inside the computer? Now this is 73, and Alter is yet to appear. And you don't see any switches, you don't see lines, you don't see even on and off switch. Yes. So this is first of all 8008 RAM 2 to 8 K, depending on how much you were ready to pay. ROM 14 that gives you right away 22K, the maximum. As I said, 8008 could address on the 16K. So what MCM team did, they did band switching. But again, if you end up only with RAM and ROM, you can't do really APL. To do APL, you have to have much more memory. So the idea was to implement virtual memory. And virtual memory was a relatively old concept, but not in terms of implementation. So I think in 70 that actually around the same time virtual memory is exactly implemented. So the idea was to use these tape drives, digital tape drives, specially designed for MCM to work, actually to serve both purposes, one as a storage and the other as virtual memory. So they would be always swapping functions and variables between RAM and tape. So without digital drives, without virtual memory, there would be no APL, there would be no MCM 70 project. So what else do we have? We have, let's return to the keyboard. It's a standard APL keyboard. We have plasma display, 32 character plasma display, self-scan. Actually, a single line was 78 character long, so you could scroll left and right to see the entire line. Dimensions, well, this is not important. Software, so obviously build in APL, and we have two other things. AVS, a virtual system, a programming language, so how about a virtual system? And easy, both for designers, operating system and system to operate virtual memory. So they were built in. Now, all of that is, hardware part of it is the work of just one guy, Jose Raya, a guy who was educated in the Philippines and got his degree, I think, in Tokyo University, and after graduation came to Kingston, Ontario, in Canada to work for Skype. Now, he started the project by playing around with Intel's Sim8 development board, and probably got some confidence that this could be done, but realized pretty fast that there's no way that they could build a computer around that board. So they decided to start their design ground up. As I said, by November of '72, Raya built a rack version of MCM 70. And actually, MCM 70 is not the only child of Raya. He eventually improved it, and so you have next model 700, and 800 model is also his work. And then he had enough of MCM and decided to divorce. But again, everything up to power supply was built by Raya. Other nice features. So this is a power supply thing, and so you're working with MCM 70 until something happened. If you had power failure, the computer was using batteries. If batteries were running low, the computer backed up everything that it had in ROM on the tape. When the power was restored, the batteries were loaded, then again the computer was bringing stuff, the content of the workspace from the tape back to ROM. So this was a very, very nice feature. As I said, there was no off and on switch. We were using the word off to operating system command to turn off the computer. And just in case you had something in the workspace or on RAM and you have forgotten to clear or to save it, the computer would do that job for you. So this was also very, very thing to have. And so this is basically what you have in this box. Now, there were different versions. The basic version was without any disk drives, cassette drives. So you could really use it as an extended calculator. You could buy a single cassette model. You have to add around 1,500 to the basic model size, which was 35. Or you can go for 2 cassettes. This was the top one. Now, the model 700 that came in '75 looked exactly the same way. They basically fixed a few bugs and fixed eventually the issue of power supply. Power supply looks great, but I'm not saying that it worked. But they wanted to have it, and eventually they got it, but it was a huge problem. Well, this looks awful. Now, the picture is not great, but this is even worse. This is probably the only picture of a plant in Kingston where they were manufacturing MCM 70. So you have a few of them on the desk ready to be ROMmed. So what should come next? You have an idea, you have a prototype, and you have to convert the prototype into a production model. And this is late 1973. So by that time, again, there's lots of information in the press, and MCM 70 was shown on many computer shows. CAD is setting distribution networks in North America and Europe. And at the same time, they try to get this to the shape that they can manufacture. And this is what the problems. Well, the slide doesn't close. Let's see what I have later on. Okay. Well, let me continue. And MCM starts experiencing problems. Problem with cash flow. Many people are not happy with the way CAD is running the company. CAD is not happy with the progress in engineering. There's lots of enthusiasm about the project, and one great side effect of that is that people are coming with brilliant ideas almost every day. And so it was very seldom they would say, give me 1 week, and this is the extra feature that will happen tomorrow. Give me another 2 weeks, and this is, I will reduce the power supply from this size to that size. Believe me, it will be 1 inch by 2 inches or something like that. Now, CAD was afraid that if the project goes longer in that way, that they will never sell manufacturing computers. years. He said that never fired anyone before, that he had no choice but to let some people go. Those people who, in his opinion, could endanger the project, because he couldn't really control them anymore. Now, that was a brilliant entrepreneur, having a really perfect understanding of the market and so on. However, he was not so good in internal politics. He was really not a good corporate politician and had no idea what was going on around. And what was going on around was that the board of directors was against him. And the result was that all the people that he fired were rehired, and he was the person to go. So he had mid-74, Kat is no more. The president, Kat is no more MCM. He was forced to sell shares of his company. He was forced to sign a paper that he would not be working on a similar project for 2 years, and he was let off. Now, what does this mean? Well, nobody knew what would happen. The company was sort of optimistic because they had Model 70 ready to manufacture. Actually, by the beginning of '74, the first production run happened. Many machines were manufactured and distributed. Model 700 was almost ready. So probably the idea was that they would do quite well without Merskap. But the truth was that Merskap was really the spine of the company. The only person with true vision and we could really move the company forward. And indeed, this is what happened from the time when Kat left the company. You don't see the same level of enthusiasm, you don't see the same level of vision, and what you will see instead is that people will be sticking, well, 75 and 700 model appeared at the time when not only you have already 80 processor by Intel, but you have tons of other interesting microprocessors you can build a computer around. But MCM was desperately trying to build new machines around 8008 architecture. So this is what happened in '75. They slightly improved Model 70, manufactured 700, but again, it's this 8008 machine. Then a year later, they manufactured 800 model. Again, they use AMD 2900 to emulate 8008 processor. Okay. And asking why, no, we had some problems and we had all these ROMs with APLs stored somewhere in the corner, and we had to use them. So this is what they would do. Now, by '76, Raya had enough. The chief engineer, he had, it was obvious to him at that time that the company would never do anything exciting, and he decided to get out. Anyway, 800 model was not selling at all. The company was losing an enormous amount of money. The company was salvaged a little bit with the arrival of 900 model, but again, it's the same idea with the emulation of 8008 instruction set, with the addition of some new instructions, but more or less this is still an old story. We see a little bit, RAM is growing a little bit, there is better MCM APL there, but basically still the same machine. Then in 1980, Model 900 was repackaged, and it was really an ugly looking machine. And you have MCM power system, and stripped down version of it. Mini power was to compete against Apple's and TRS-80s and so on and so on. Basically, by '82, the company was over. Here, some of these machines, so this is 800 model. Single cassette was here, again, one line plasma display behind the screen, you can't see it. A little bit better screen. And new features, disk drives. You have 100K disk drives. So this is why you didn't need really two cassette drives. This ugly looking 900 model, built in CRT. Again, same hard drives. I'm sorry, disk drives. And this is the power system. Again, this is the 900 model, but put into a different box and detachable keyboard, so that's the difference. Okay, so I mentioned already some reasons why MCM as a company did not succeed. The departure of CAP was certainly one of these big reasons. But there were other things as well. So there was lack of vision and financial constraints that kept the company from really starting venturing to new hardware possibilities. But there were also external reasons. There was a lot of competition pretty soon. So when the 700 model appeared, there were already similar machines on the market, not necessarily microprocessor based, but nevertheless doing similar tasks. So IBM 5100 appeared, and one was producing 3200 models from early 70s. Of course, HP programmable calculators, and even on Canadian market, you have seen interesting machines like this DMS-8 that appeared around the same time as Apple I. The same processor, but used Linux-like operating system. So it's very interesting. Well, it's interesting when you look at it, but this was one of the main reasons why they couldn't sell it. It's too complex. Now, nice story about 5100. Some people are trying to connect, when you are talking about MCM 70, sometimes 5100 comes to the picture where there was any connection and influence. I tried to investigate that as well. And the other thing that I can tell about the relationship between these two was the two at APL conference in Toronto, and the prototype was demonstrated. Among the people who were enthusiastic about the project, there was a group of people from IBM who were working on a similar desktop APL machine. And at that time, there was only one group at IBM that was doing it. The project was called SCAMP. Now, SCAMP wasn't a microprocessor based, it was an APL desktop machine with built-in display, in the sense quite similar to Redbox, but it didn't go into production, and eventually you see bits and pieces of SCAMP in 5100 model. Now, I couldn't find any people from IBM who were attending the Toronto conference to really confirm that. But certainly I found documentation that among the first few MCM 70s ever manufactured were directly to IBM for the purpose of research. So this is the connection between 5100 and something else I didn't know. Now, the big thing was marketing. Again, it's early 73. The concept of a microprocessor is new. APL, yes, there's a group of enthusiasts, but it's not. But it's still something that you have to do to popularize it. And basically, the company had no great idea how difficult it would be to market that thing, how expensive it would be. So CAT was certainly successful in setting up distribution networks in the States, Canada, and Europe. But again, to educate people who be actually selling these machines is another thing. And there was some people under stress that this was the main problem, why they have such a hard time in selling some of the MCM machines, especially Model 700, Model 800. But winning strategy, how to convince the customer that what they have in the box is something that they should really go after. And then APL itself. There was a time when a company developed 800 model, I showed you a new slide, and it was not selling at all. And there was some talk to put BASIC inside in some word processor and sell that package. But MCM was always an APL company. APL was religion there, and the idea was there almost immediately. And that way, MCM could not really take any advantage from the popularity of BASIC, from the popularity of CPM operating system. They were more or less alone in the market of desktop hardware computers running APL. And they couldn't really get any decent support from the APL community. As I mentioned, they really enjoyed very much their big computers. This is not my opinion. This is what was told to me in several patients. Running much more powerful interpreters than MCM APL. So it was a nice concept, but this is not something that they were ready to support. Now, on the other hand, for MCM, APL community was everything. APL community would say, yeah, you have to go for shared variables. This is what they would do immediately. I think this is what they would do. So they really were going after APL community. They couldn't get enough support actually to sell some boxes, at least. Now, briefly, conclusion. So certainly there is lots of firsts if somebody is interested in that. I try to argue that MCM 17 is the first microprocessor-based personal computer. So if you agree with that, everything that it had inside had to be first power protection system, and even the first computer game, Post-Ray, that was actually demonstrated at Intel, and Kat told me the story, so that he wasn't really certain whether they were much more enthusiastic about APL or the game itself. But there's a little bit more interesting thing. The standard idea about the beginning of personal microcomputing is that here you have some developments at Intel, and there's a gap of 1 or 2 years. And then hobbyists are coming to the picture, and when you have two forces, the technological force and the enthusiasm of the group coming together, this where you can locate the beginning of true beginning of microcomputing. Now, and it seems to me that if you look at the companies such as R2E, France, that develop Michael, MCM, and their work on MCM computers, and I can find probably a few more companies, you will see that the picture is a little bit more complex. It actually, there were companies which identified the full potential of microprocessors very early, from the very beginning, and there was a separate stream or trend in microcomputing that predated focused movement and ran in parallel, sort of in between hobbyists and mainstream computing. And they were, yes, they were always there. New companies were being added, and old computer companies were dying. But certainly, that movement was visible from the very beginning. Whether this is something interesting or not, I think a little bit more research has to be done. There's always something that we discover when we go to Europe, and we realized that this German company was also into 8008 based microcomputer, and in late 73 they were demonstrating their microcomputer in one of the shows in Germany. So I think the global picture, the first day of personal microcomputing, can be much more complex than what we think it is. Anyway, thank you very much. There will be, if you need more information, please send me an email. My paper is coming soon on MCM 70. There will be another talk, 3 o'clock, devoted to APL, MCM APL. You are very welcome to come. Thanks very much to me for bringing MCM 70, and I hope you can take your pictures now.
So you might just mention that there's an APL booth for the APL Bay Area Users Group with 2 other machines in the exhibit area. And I don't know if you want to take any questions.
Sure. Well, were you at York University when you were doing your work in France?
And could you just repeat the question too? Jay?
Well, if I were at your at the same time when I was doing research in France, yes. This was 2 years ago, and I think you in '86.
Ned Chapin here. A bit of history, perhaps, that you didn't mention about the power supply. It was designed by Nelson at Simon Fraser University. And it was the first use of a switching power supply in a commercial small computer type. And that's the main weakness of the machine in the 70s, is that inrush sometimes overloaded that power supply design and would crash the power supply.
Oh, the only comment I have is that most people that I contacted and interviewed told me that the design is the work of Ted Edwards, and I think even he mentioned that to me in one of the CES.
You should talk to Nelson sometime. She'll give you a different story.
Yeah, okay, I guess I can go after that story as well. Please.
Ned Chapin back again. On the matter of the 5100, the story that I got was that the 5100, the MCM 70 was adopted by insurance companies in the Hartford, Boston, New York corridor. And IBM saw that as competition, and that was the trigger that was used internally within IBM to release the 5100 to a project that resulted in something product out the door. But it was that competition factor in the insurance industry in the New England area.
So at least the IBM did one thing right. Some of the models run both APL and BASIC, and somehow the MCM crew could not really do nothing. We lacked abilities.
Do you have any sense of what sorts of uses the MCM 70 was put to? Was it largely actuaries or?
Yes, exactly. That plus education. I'm not aware of any research institutes that were using. However, among the many documents that were presented to me, I found a list of customers, and actually quite a lot of machines went to universities. So I would say application use was one of the areas. MCM 70 and 700 was selling very well in Europe, especially in France. Again, I have some theory why there and not here. And again, mainly business. Yes.
Do you have an idea of how many were sold of the various models or the years?
Can't say. I know some numbers, but it's very hard to really speculate with those numbers. I know that by August 73, so we are talking about the prototype era still, there were 10 machines constructed. Beginning of 74, there were already some machines, and again, I hear numbers 40, 50 pre-production, 50 machines shipped to distributors and first customers. And through production, made seem to fall. How many? I know that CAT ordered 2,8008 from Intel. So his intention was to manufacture 2,070s within 74 and the same amount in 75. So I think the company was aiming at around 2,000 machines a year. 800 model was not selling at all, and I would be surprised if they sold 15 or 20. 900 was selling well. This would really help the company to survive in a few years. This is the only thing I know in terms of numbers of these machines.
Ned Chapin again, I'll confirm those general numbers that are consistent with what I heard at the time. The sales in 73, however, were lower, and he didn't run through his inventory of all the microprocessors he bought.
Yes.
But he got rid of most of them in 74,
Yes.
but still wound up with not selling 4,000.
You have a question?
No.
I thought it was
Thanks.
Thank you very much.